Right, this may be one of the youngest guests we've had on the show. Toby Lee, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. This is just like the list of things that you've achieved by 19 is actually insane, isn't it? Like it's mental. Like some people in their careers never get some of the things that you've achieved. It's just so incredible.
I have to, well, you're very, very kind. I have to admit, it's one of those that because everything's happened so quickly, there's not really been much time to kind of actually sit back and think what's happened. So when lockdown came, I was kind of like sitting down thinking, I wasn't actually dreaming this. It has happened. And it's kind of one of those really weird moments because I was like, what's going on? This is crazy. And it was kind of one of those really nice moments that I could just, and recently as well, just being on tour and being able to have the downtime and stuff in the tour bus and stuff, just to literally sit down and just go, I am so unbelievably lucky to have been given these opportunities. And, opportunities like this when I get to talk to lovely people like you. So I'm just kind of like, I'm so fortunate to do what I absolutely love doing every single day, and I'm always thankful to be in that position. I really
Yeah.
am.
I mean, we're going to touch on some of the things a little bit later, but like, let's just take it right back. So, I was watching a clip of you on this morning, and you're saying basically it all started when you were 4 years old. You got like a ukulele from your gran. Like, that's crazy. I can't remember what I was doing at four, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't making music.
Well, I was a very noisy child because I was always screaming, or I was always the one that had too much energy. Not much has changed, but instead of screaming, I put it into music. But no, I was always that one that I just tried to find rhythm in everything. So I'd be
Yeah.
the kid in class with his pencils drumming on the table, or I'd be the one humming every 5 minutes, or like doing the trick with the ruler where you slide it on the table to make some sort of noise. I was always the kid trying to make some sort of sound out of everything. And much to my parents' dismay, it was always kind of like, right, he's doing some sort of project again and making some sort of noise. And I started on drums. That was my first thing. I think
That is the
it's
best
also that
instrument.
I can see in the background of your video that someone might be slightly biased,
Yes.
but it's so much fun, isn't it? And I think also when you're young, it's that kind of when you there's not really in terms of picking up an instrument like a guitar and trying to figure out the notation. In terms of going to drums, you didn't have to have a drum kit to make some sort of you know drumming sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You could always tap on your knees, whereas if you wanted to play guitar, you'd have to have a guitar or a ukulele or something to make that sound of noise. So for me, it was kind of something that I just loved, whereas my neighbors didn't. Hence why we now live on a farm in the middle of nowhere. That probably explains everything. But yeah, I just fell in love with music, and my parents were always very open with the music they played around the house. Like my mum loved old opera music, and my dad loved all sorts of things. So one minute we'd have Dire Straits playing, the next minute we'd have Pearl Jam and Metallica playing. And then he also had an obsession with rockabilly music and all things 50s American, whether that be the cars or the music. So we were always that eccentric family that would, rock up to school in a 1955 Cadillac and, be playing Elvis music. That would be us.
Yeah.
And I'm an only child, so we could kind of slightly get away with it. But I just grew up listening to Buddy Holly and Eddie Cochran and Richie Valens and the Big Bopper and Little Richard and all that kind of early 50s stuff. And I was fascinated by most of the time, and Chuck Berry being a good example, most of his songs, I mean, take Roll Over Beethoven and take Johnny Be Good, they're pretty much the same kind of song, but he made them sound different. And I was fascinated by the fact that even if it was three chords or four chords, they would make every song sound unique, even
Yeah.
though it was theoretically the same musical property. And I just loved that. And I thought that, when there's so many complex pieces of music going around, it's quite nice that there is something so simple, but yet so effective and so creative. And so I just got obsessed. And Buddy Holly really was my main obsession. And I'd go everywhere with the Buddy Holly glasses on. And I would try and be my own version of a ginger, long-haired Buddy Holly, which wasn't going very well. But it was so much fun, and I just was obsessed with music, all types of music, and always
Yeah.
have been.
So yeah, because I love all types of music, but I filtered more into the rock world. That's where like my
Yes.
core sort of thing. But yours is blues, which is it's a great. I love blues, but it's kind of a difficult thing to first get into, isn't it? And like, especially as a young kid, like, there's not many kids going around going, "What's your favorite music?" Blues, mate. Is on my
Yeah, what you listen to? Oh, I love a bit of Robert Johnson. You know, it's
yeah,
kind of not, it's not really the casual thing to go for. And I think the only reason it really came around was because of my rock and roll early influences. It was kind of progression that rock and roll was born out of blues music.
yeah, yeah,
And ultimately rock and roll then, you know, morphed into more, it got gradually heavier, which went into the more rock world. And you know, I'm obsessed with all rock music as well. I mean, to be fair, most of our live set is more of a rock vibe anyway. But I feel like in terms of blues music, I'm not necessarily like a blues musician in the sense where I, you know, rock up at a blues club and play, you know, 2 hours of a slow blues thing. As much as that's something that I love doing, I love music in all kind of ways and from all standpoints. And so I think my massive blues influence comes into my guitar solo playing as opposed to my writing style, because obviously a lot of blues is about heartbreak and, you know, I woke up this morning and my wife left me or something, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not saying that that's what all blues music, I'm not pigeonholing it that much, but you know what I mean. It
yeah,
can, a lot of the early blues music, you know, even Crossroads is a song. I went down to the Crossroads and I fell down on my knees. You know, it's very hard for at that point like a 13-year-old to write a song like that, you know, especially with it being seen as genuine.
yeah,
And so I had to find a way to get the blues music that had inspired me so much into my music without being, you know, seen as kind of a mick take, if that makes sense. Because, you know, it's hard enough being Ginger and trying to be taken seriously playing blues music, let alone writing a song that would come along as genuine
yeah.
and be based off genuine experience. So I try and incorporate the blues style into my solo guitar playing, and then try and create my own, I guess, musical genre out of the rest of the song and the rest of the music.
Yeah. But I love what you said though about blues kind of being like the foundation of a lot of music, which it
Yeah,
is. It really is. And
100%. I mean, even modern music, if you hear a guitar solo come into,
mate,
I'm just going to use this as an example, but if there's a guitar solo in a Taylor Swift song, most of the time it's going to have some sort of blues pentatonic influence to it,
yeah,
because that is kind of the, if you say I want to learn a guitar solo, it's gonna be that kind of vibe, because that's kind of, it's almost like the building blocks of a guitar solo. That's where you kind of start from as well, you know. So it always seems to creep in everywhere, and I think that's what drew me to it, because it was just so versatile. It was such a broad genre, that kind of didn't really have much in terms of boundaries, which I really loved, and I think that's what I still love about it today.
yeah. There's definitely a freedom in blues and jazz. It's just like what note you're playing, it doesn't matter. We're just gonna go with it. Like
A
we'll
hundred
find a
percent.
way to another one.
Yes, I've played the wrong note, but I'm going to run with it. It'll be all right. I'll
Yeah,
bend it into shape and do a
yeah.
guitar face, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
But what is that this freedom of just like we're going for it. This is passion, and I think, like you said, like maybe some people not thinking you're genuine, but blues doesn't necessarily have to, you know, it's the passion for it. Like music is just if you've got the passion for it, I think it's genuine. Whether like you're singing about heartbreak, you know, maybe at 15, it's not as serious as
Yeah,
someone at 40, but like, if the passion's there for it, that's what I think counts.
exactly. And I think that's why I waited so long to release original music and stuck with uh, either someone else singing or someone else writing, and I do the music and guitar parts, because I knew that I could put the emotion that was needed into the music, but at anywhere from 12 to 16, you couldn't really put the heartbreak sign into it. Whereas now I feel like, you know, for me, I listen to music to do with my mood. If I'm upset, you listen to sad music. If I'm happy, I listen to happy music, and it helps you get over whatever is going on in your head, whatever's
Yeah,
been internalized. And I think again, that's what I loved about the blues music, in the sense of blues went into gospel, and gospel, when you're listening to the happy side of things, you can't help but smile and be happy. You know, the jump blues, that old school, anything with a horn section, you know, straight away you're like, oh my gosh, this is cool. You can't listen to that and just be like, you just can't, it just doesn't work. Whereas obviously then there's slow blues to kind of help with the heartache side of things. But I loved that people will come at it from so many different directions, and it's so malleable, I guess. That's what I thought was just brilliant.
yeah. I love what you said though about picking music for your mood because I 100% do that. Like I've got
Yeah,
playlists that like I've got ones called like Happy Sad, which is like the sad songs that make me happy again. Like
exactly. It's
because
you
it's
do
so
it to
many.
exactly like I've got a driving playlist if I'm on a long journey, and my car is particularly loud just because it's old, and it's kind of like it's nice to have something to drown out that horrible droning noise in the background when you're flying down a motorway. So you've got your driving playlist, you've got your traffic playlist, you've got your I'm baking playlist. You know,
Yeah.
you've got a bit of everything, and I like that. You know, I think that's what music's for. It's to help you get over certain emotions, and also like it was written, most songs are written to be relatable. You know, that's kind of the point behind them, which I love, I really do.
Also, though, thinking about it, like in your teenage years, that's probably like some of the most emotions you will ever feel is in your teenage years. Like from
Oh
like
yeah,
12 to 20, there's a lot that happens.
oh
Like
yeah, all over the place,
yeah,
completely all over the place, you know. But I think a lot of people, you know, I'm always that guy. I've never been like what the rest of my friends were like for whether they kind of liked it or not. You know, I've never been out partying. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've just always been that kid that would be playing guitar or being at home and listening to music. And they'd always kind of be like, well, why are you doing that? And it's like, well, that's kind of what makes me happy. That's what I like. It might not be what makes you guys happy, but this is what I like to do. And I know that it's not for everyone, but everyone finds their release in some sort of music. And I always looked for that in a song.
yeah. So let's move on to some of the things that you've achieved in like the ridiculous amount of short time that you have. Like, so obviously the whole BB King playing at his club thing is just incredible for anyone that's like into blues music. Playing at BB King's place is like Mecca, isn't it? It's like it's the holy grail.
Well, it was a bit surreal because I the whole situation. I was on social media in terms of uploading videos of me playing guitar totally by accident. It wasn't intentional. I didn't wake up one morning and go, I'm going to upload a video to YouTube because I want to become a YouTuber or something. I've
Yeah,
never seen myself as a YouTuber. I've just I you know, basically I see social media and those platforms as it's your business card. It's your digital business card.
yeah,
And so it is the way in which, you know, whether people love it or hate it, it is the modern day to promote your work, whether that be music or anything, you know.
yeah.
Um, so for me, my family live over in America. I've got family living all over the world, and they wanted to know what I was up to. So I sat down on the sofa and recorded a BB King track in a tiger onesie to put on a little private YouTube channel or a Facebook page, in fact, at the time, to so that they could see it because it was a lot easier to do that than to send a big old file.
Yeah.
And it seemed to gather a bit more attention than just my family. For good or for worse, I mean, the tiger onesie thing has come to haunt me ever so slightly. But you know, I can't knock it because frankly, I wouldn't be able to do what I do now without it. It's all a stage of the journey. But from that video, I got a call from BB King's daughter saying, "Would you like to come out to Memphis and play with his band?" And this was just not long after he'd unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, what is going on? This is crazy. And then before I knew it, me, mum, and dad were out in Memphis playing on Beale Street at BB King's. It's like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah. Like out of all the things that you've done so far, is that probably the maddest? Because obviously you've then been on Ellen, you've been on This Morning, performed in School of Rock, like being on stage with Fly, like some ridiculous things. But is that like the most like thing you're like, this happened to me?
Yeah, I think definitely it was this happened to me thing. It was also I'm 10 years old. I'm, you know, most of my friends are at home, you know, playing with Lego and teddy bears and stuff. You know, I'm on a plane flying out to Memphis, Tennessee to do something that only dreams are made of kind of thing. And also I think it also was this happened so quickly. So quickly.
Yeah.
Just because it was kind of like all of a sudden I it kind of I was on the phone to them and then I'm in Memphis. It's like what's happened? This is crazy. So yeah, it was definitely a very surreal moment, but a huge honor to be recognized in that light. You know, even at 10, I could realize that was a pretty crazy experience.
Also, that legitimizes it as well because the fact
Yeah,
that BB King's daughters have invited you out to his club, like that's not everyone gets that invite.
well that's the thing, and I'd had, you know, I never want to go too deep because these are always light-hearted interviews and stuff, but but there was a lot of issues on social media that, it's I didn't worry about it when I was younger. When lockdown came and there was a bit of time to think over what people would put in the comment section, and you couldn't think of anything else. It was not very easy because people are nasty. People can be
Yeah,
so harmful, and when you're young, you don't really take any notice of it. But when you start kind of recognizing what people think, and how people look at you in certain lights, it can get to you. Luckily, I was one of them that I never really let it get to me too much, but you can really see how it can affect people. Um,
oh
I
yeah.
just especially a 10-year-old ginger kid with short hair and a blazer turning up at BB King's club to play blues music with his band. You can see where people would get their kind of ammunition to fight that battle. But I just saw it as a complete positive experience and
Yeah.
a huge privilege.
Yeah, I mean, social media is one of the greatest things, but also one of the worst things ever invented for that reason.
Absolutely,
So it gives you the
absolutely.
opportunity to be seen by BB King's daughters, them invite you out, and then all the other stuff that comes with it, which is just why I've never understood it, and it just needs to get in the sea, but
Yeah,
it's just part
it,
of the internet.
it's one of those annoying things. There's all the pros and all the cons. You can put your music out there and it can change your life and it can ruin your life at the same time. So you've just got to. I think it's a lot. There's some people that live their lives through it, but I tend to not really, give much of my like home personal life away with it because it's promoting what I do. It's promoting my business, and I kind of like to keep it that way.
Yeah,
I have my family life, and I like to keep that nestled into just me, my mum and my dad, and my close friends and family. But social media has done everything for me, really, in the sense of opportunities. And I think in the modern day, it's very hard to make opportunities happen without some form of social media because it's the only way to really look through your brand. It's basically another website.
yeah. See, I love what you said though about separating like you and your music, and I wish more people would do that because social media is just funny with you get given so much information about everyone. I don't care, but I see it, so I kind of care because I'm reading it, but I
Yeah,
don't actually care. Like I wish people would. I just want to see the music. I just want to see the film. I don't want to know anything else that's going on. I just want to know
yeah,
about that, or just know about this.
exactly.
That's it.
I don't want to know that you had scrambled eggs on sourdough
Yeah,
with some smoked salmon on the side this morning. It's kind of like you just. I think that's very much. I think there are. I mean, it works for some people. I can't knock it, but for me personally, I'm an only child. I live in the middle of nowhere. We've got 3 dogs. I like to keep myself to myself, and I think that's also when the negative stuff comes in. That's also my coping mechanism. I,
yeah,
I don't I don't like to throw it all out on social media because everyone likes a personal life.
yeah. I think that's going to help you in the long run as well. Keeping that mindset, I think it's going to be
Yeah,
tremendous because there's so many people I've spoken to who artists have been going 20, 30 years, and it's like, yeah, you read some of their comments and you're having a down day, and then you read that and you're just like, man, why am I doing this? And you're like, no, carry on
exactly,
doing it. Ignore that person. They're an idiot. Like, it doesn't matter if you're playing in front of 5 people or 5,000 people. There is still people there for you. So just focus on
exactly.
that.
I couldn't agree more, and I love the way you word that. That's exactly how it is in my head, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. So another thing that you were in, which I did mention briefly, School of Rock. That's amazing because, like, an incredible film, but also the musical. I've only seen like 5 musicals, of which School of Rock is one of them, and it's
Yay!
incredible.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up watching the film on repeat. I knew every single word to the film. I always wanted to be Zach Mooneyham. I was like, that's all I need. There's videos of me when I was like 6 years old with my first ukulele that I started on, which I've still got. It's got no strings, but I've still got it. And it was me strumming along to School of Rock, thinking, I want to be that. I want to be that. And I got a call saying, would you like to do it? But this was actually when it was in Broadway. So it'd be a case of me and my family relocating to New York. Um, but the licenses in America are very different to the licenses in the UK in that we had to have in the UK 3 teams that would be on rotation, so that it wouldn't be, one team doing
Constant,
every
yeah.
single show of School of Rock. Whereas in the US, it was like you're in School of Rock, you're doing every show. Um, so I got contacted about that, and I got flown out to New York to do all of the promotional shots in the US. So there was a couple of posters for the US ones where I was on it, but I was in the UK. It was all very confusing. Um, but also at the time I was 8 years old and I didn't sing. I had no confidence in terms of singing. I just about had enough confidence with my guitar, but I had no chance of singing. My claim to fame with that is I told Chris Evans that I hate singing and I'll never do it. And look where we are now. I'm singing. But it's they then said, look, don't worry, we're sorted for the US for the moment. It's going to be coming to the UK. Would you be interested if it was a little bit down the road? And I said yes. And so sure enough, we came to the UK. I went through a few of the auditions, and then on the last audition, everyone had gone home, and they brought me into this room with the panel of judges and just said, "Look, we're delighted to say that you've got the part." And I was like, "Oh, okay, oh my goodness." And it was that case of, this is my little Zach Mooneyham dream coming true all at once. And so yeah, after a couple of months of training and a year of doing the show, this whirlwind of an experience came to an end. But to play in front of 1,500 people every night, playing live music was my first real experience of actually gigging, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, when you're young, getting to shout, scream, jump around a stage with a guitar around your neck, doing an American accent with a ginger mohawk, it was quite an experience, and one that I'm very thankful for, and I'll never forget.
Yeah, it's an awesome show as well. So talking about gigging, kind of smoothly moving on to what you're currently doing at the moment with somebody. Oh, I've not heard of him before. Jools Holland. Who's he?
It's been a whirlwind, that's for sure. I mean, it's quite nice actually getting to talk about all this stuff with someone, because again, I'm an only child, so having these experiences and being able to share them with people is quite nice. But yeah, I did a radio show with Kerris Matthews, and the producer was working with a TV production company that were doing a video about or a movie about blues music, and where had kind of the inspirations come from, whether it be Chicago, Mississippi, and then they wanted to see how Britain had kind of made a difference to it. And so obviously the only guy really doing that whole rhythm and blues thing that is still going with a huge audience base and kind of a household name status is Mr. Jools Holland. And so he was the guy running the show, and they asked if I'd come along to be the youth side of things. And of course, I was never going to say no to that. And so I went along to Jools's studio, and that was the first time I got to meet him and his orchestra, and we got on very, very well. We're both obsessed with classic cars. We both had the same humor, and we both love old music. So we got on very, very well. And I got offered to do 30 gigs with him as his special guest. So there's some incredible support acts. But this was just me going up on my own with Jools and his orchestra as part of his orchestra, really. And so that 30 shows for me, considering I already had over 50 something books with my band, I was like, it's going to be a busy year, because this was, halfway through May. So we'd already had quite a busy start to the year. And then that 30 shows changed to 65. So it got a bit busy, but I couldn't ask for a more incredible experience and a more incredible family, really, to be able to tour with. And we travel home on the 23rd of December.
Nice. I mean, how is that for the first meeting with someone like Jools Holland? When you walk into a room and you guys, you're Jools Holland. How is that?
Yeah, it's like, I've seen you on the TV every single year and watched you when the years change from old to New Year's, So it was kind of like, what's going on here? My parents are the biggest Jools Holland fans, and so I've ultimately been brought up listening to his music and watching his TV stuff. And so for me, it was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. But what I find incredible about Jools is the way you see him on TV, the way you hear him in interviews, the way that you hear his music come across. That's Jools. He's not another person. He is exactly the same. And I think because of that, he was the most lovely person to meet. And he's just a lovely, lovely guy. And I'm very proud and very honoured to call him a friend. I never thought that was a phrase that I'd get to say, but he's an incredible guy, and I can't thank him and his team enough for giving me the opportunity to tour with him.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible. So you're currently on tour with Jools Holland up and down the country at the moment. Obviously, your album House on Fire is out as well. It's just an incredible time, a busy year, but it's been absolutely wonderful, Toby. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Just truly wonderful, and just what you've achieved is amazing, and we just love to see how far you can take this.
Oh, you're so kind, and it means the world to be given these opportunities. So thank you so much for having me, Simon. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Catch you later.